Hi everyone, it's been a while. Um, there's something else that's been on my mind. It's just one of those things that I'm sharing with my people who are not South African. I know I've got one who's definitely watching, who's not South African and is not even living in South Africa, yeah. So, one of the other reasons I'm a rebel African is that I don't want to marry someone. I didn't want to marry a man from either my father's group or my sorry, I'm still sick, or my mother's group, because both the Basotho, and the Xhosa people both sent their sons to the bush in order to become men, to the mountain in order to learn manhood, and I didn't want that for my son. I just knew that from just growing up, I knew, especially the Sutus went quite a bit younger than the Xhosas. They went to the bush or the mountain, they lived in a hut, they didn't drink or eat for a while, and then they slowly started they would introduce water, and then they'd introduce food, and then there'd be a big celebration, and now they're men. That's what I knew, and that was okay. But every year, every December, January period, which is when many of them go, I would hear that many have died. Even losing one person every year from one particular ceremony or process should be enough. It's an alarm. So I just knew that, okay, people go there and they will not all live in the process of becoming a man. Now, the thing was, I didn't get this because we were living in Western times, or we were following the West. We were going to school, we were living in houses, brick houses, zinc houses, metal houses, but we were living in houses. There were no more animals for us to hunt. There are no more animals for us to hunt. If we dare go hunt an elephant now, you'll be called a poacher and you will be fined and go to jail. So that part of our lives has been taken away, is gone. We're no longer hunters. So why did our boys have to go to a mountain to learn to become a man? Why? I didn't get that. And then when I was a teenager, there was a lady at our church, I might have shared this. Her son went to the bush, and mother's not allowed to go there. It's a male preserve. I think little virgin girls, I am very wrong, I could be very wrong here, it's shrouded in secrecy, as they like to say, are the only ones who are allowed to then bring food to the men, and then the men will serve it, and that's like only in the last week of this whole torturous period of fasting, enforced fasting, starvation and dehydration. But yes, and so she could not see her son when he was there, and she knew, all right, he's been cut, and now he is suffering in pain, no pain medication whatsoever. And she knows, okay, my child is not eating right now. And she was like, he's so thin, he's already so thin, he doesn't have any fat reserves that he can afford to lose. He is thin already, he's already underweight. He looked underweight indeed. He's not drinking for how long? What if he dies? What if he doesn't survive? What if the wound from the circumcision gets infected? What if? What if? What if? And she herself just became so thin and sickly. And I thought, is this what this does to mothers? Maybe other mothers are more relaxed, but what I saw happening with that mother, her son was like basically our peer, he was just a bit older than us. So this was the first time I'd actually seen this happening to someone I knew. And I thought, what if he dies? All to go and become a man when he doesn't need to. And that was the thing for me. I didn't get it. I still don't get it. I know there are ancestral reasons and tradition reasons, and I'm not a traditional person. I'm a Christian. So there are no Christian reasons to have to go to a hut made out of here in Cape Town, I've seen it with like plastic sheeting. Imagine how hot it gets. But yeah, a hut made out of sticks or whatever, clay, etc., whatever it's made out of, to learn to be a man. As I said to my husband, why couldn't people just sit in a hall and get called and say, all right, young men, you're all 18 years old now, or whatever the age is. It tends to be boys who are leaving matric high school. You're all 18, come, let's sit together and let's have a week-long conference on how to be a man. It's not like we need all the other stuff. We don't need to learn how to kill with the stick or the whatever it was. It's not really useful. So there's learning to protect yourself. There's the, and for whatever reason, there's this thing that they must come back and sleep with someone as soon as possible. Have sex as soon as possible. These are all unmarried young men who've all been cut. Why? Why? So there's also the penis. It's quite a valuable part of your body, isn't it? Like my finger, my breast, my thumb. It's bad enough that someone is just gonna cut it with, it has to be a blade, like a spear of some sort, like a blade. So the way my mother said it would happen is you have to, sit there with your legs open. No like anesthesia of any sort, like nothing. And they cut. And you're not allowed to flinch. You dare not flinch, because then you're just a boy. You're not good enough if you dare react to the pain. And I thought, well, that's a big burden. If I stub my toe and I reflexively react, how much more when I'm actually being cut, like circumcised, and I'm not meant to show pain. My mother said, if you do, then your ancestors get angry. Like, I don't know, I was too young to ask, but we don't believe in that. Don't do we? Do we? But yes, then you lose out in some way. I don't actually know what happens if you do flinch. Do they then say, oh, well, you're not going to go through the rest of the starvation period? So you're not allowed to flinch, which for me didn't make sense. Manhood is not about not reacting to pain. It's about how you react. What is your behavior? If you get hurt, are you going to swear and cuss and break a window? Or will you just say, oh, man, that hurt? That's what, to me, separates a man from a boy. So the whole reaction and you're not meant to flinch thing didn't make sense. And then you had to be covered in white to show something, and then you had to go and be reflected something. There's a lot of symbolism, which for Christianity isn't necessary. But for those who are not Christian, I understand why you do it. It's part of your culture. It is your tradition. It is something you do. You do. And the sad thing is, if you don't go and get your penis cut by someone, and then the same blade, that's what used to happen. Nowadays, they're trying to fix that. Cuts the next person, cut the next person. HIV, let's pass on the HIV. If you don't get cut, if you don't go and starve and dehydrate, and then finally eat a bit of this and a bit of that, and then finally get able to eat everything you want, and then come and drink alcohol to celebrate that you survived, then you're not a man, and no one will take you seriously. I promise you, I will take you seriously whether you've been to a bush or not. And the sad thing is, other men will not take other people seriously if they didn't go, which to me was also very stupid. Because if they're going there to learn something, why can't they just learn it in their bedroom? Why can't their father just pass on, sit down and say, all right, my son. When I went to the bush back then in the days when we had to fight on, live off the land, this is what I learned. But then because I'm learning that from my father, and not from the mountain, I'm not a man. How does that work? Make it make sense to me. I really don't understand it. But back to the penis. So, unfortunately, there are many botched circumcisions where men end up with no penis whatsoever, end up with partial penises, end up with non-working penises. This is a big deal. I don't hear of that kind of stat when you're talking about safe baby circumcisions done by a trained person in a sterile, clean environment. I don't. So what are we doing wrong with these boys who will now die as boys? From what I heard from the one man I know who said it was torture, he's a Christian. And I do understand that Christians do have different ways of doing it where they are taught Christian things by Christian people. Again, my question is, then why not just sit in the hall and not go through the starvation period in order to learn how to be a man? I still don't get it. These people now, the first penis transplant in South Africa was done on a man who had lost his penis where? Because he was going to the bush to become a man, and instead he's now less of a man. Guys, this is why I told myself I will never marry a Xhosa person or a Sotho person, because I've seen the most Christian of people suddenly just get caught up in this thing, which when you really study it, is not necessary for Christianity and is steeped in a lot of ancestor traditional stuff. We have to be honest, it is. So you see them just being twisted. So I knew I'm not going to marry someone. And what is so sad is they send me these celebratory, like people do invitations now, like it's a wedding. Guess what? So-and-so is going to come out the bush. Woohoo! Let's have a party. You're invited. And they don't know. I actually don't care. Or rather, I do care. I'm glad that the person has lived. You can look up South Africa and deaths of initiates and deaths of circumcisions, like circumcision deaths, initiate deaths, whatever. Yeah, just Google the terms and you will see. Many do not make it. Besides losing their manhoods, they lose their lives. And so when someone sends me that, or when they say they're getting ready to, they're saving money to throw this whole big feast, my heart sinks. My heart really does, because again, I don't see the necessity. I do see the risk. It's like me taking a whole lot of alcohol and then going out to drive. There's a risk, just like there's a risk to go there with some person with a blade who will be cutting you, and then you must starve for a while. I don't know how to put this, but I'm glad I'm not a man. I really am glad I was born a girl, because that, and more importantly, here's my other thing about it. Here's my biggest cry about this whole becoming a man thing. How exactly are we becoming? What are we teaching them? That's what I want to know. I want to know, what are we teaching these people when they are in the bush? Because I see them come back. They go around having sex. Yeah, they're very good at that. But any boy can do that too, hey? Frenchmen do it without going to the bush. Zulu men do it without going to the bush. And no offense, but always for growing up, for me, the most manliest man was Zulu. Zulu. Those Zulus are very manly, masculine, without going to a bush. So, look, yeah. But I don't understand what we have gained. What has separated us, Maxhosa and Basotho, especially I'm Maxhosa, because where I am, I live amongst, or the predominant Xhosa, the predominant black grouping is Maxhosa in the Western Cape. I don't see the positives in the manhood that is apparently being taught. I see many fatherless children. I see a high HIV and AIDS rate. I see a lot of domestic violence. I see a lot of catcalling of women and rape. What kind of men are we bringing from the bush? If that is what, I don't see the positives. I don't see it. I don't see any politician standing up and saying, men, when we went to the bush, we were taught to respect women. We were taught to protect our ladies, but you are shaming us. I don't hear that. And why is it so secret? Seriously, especially for Christians who allegedly don't believe in ancestors who are capable of seeing. Why is it so secret? Because if there are no ancestors to doom us, and why can't you tell us what happens when you're there? Why is it so secret? I don't see the positives in our Xhosa men going there. I see lots of adultery. I see lots of infidelity. You haven't learned to be a man, not in my estimation. I don't know about other Xhosa women and other Sotho women, but for this half Xhosa, half Sotho woman, a man is someone who will be committed in a marriage, whether it's traditional or white wedding, I don't care, but a real man will commit himself to one woman, then make a baby, and then he will be there for the rest of that baby's life and into adulthood, supporting not only financially, but supporting his wife and children with his time and his good humor. I see lots of alcoholism amongst us. I see protest action. You killed one of my cousins with your protest action. It can't only have been boys who were doing this. I've seen grown men throwing sticks and stones and bricks at vehicles. So I see crime. You come back from the bush and you burn buses, you burn your own school, you burn your own schools, you burn your own libraries, you kill paramedics coming to save your fathers and mothers' lives. You kill the people coming to fix your electricity. Obviously, it's not all. Obviously, didn't learn much when they were up at the bush, did they? It didn't differentiate them from any other Zulu or Venda or whatever person, and that is my point. I don't see any difference between a Xhosa man who's gone to the bush and any other normal human. There's nothing I see that sets you apart positively. I really don't. I've not heard anyone saying, when I went to the bush taught me something that cannot be taught just by normal living, just by being a good person. So for me, a good man loves the woman he's sleeping with. He doesn't just go and have sex with her to cleanse himself so that his wound heals faster after he's gone to the bush. He loves his woman that he sleeps with. He's committed to her. He's in a committed relationship that everyone knows about and respects. He provides for his family, not only financially, but in terms of time, effort, being kind, etc. He controls himself. He doesn't get drunk. He doesn't beat people. He doesn't walk around off his head because he's so drunk that he doesn't even fall around because he's so drunk. And he is a law-abiding citizen of the country he belongs to. And he respects women because he came from women. And you know, another reason why I know it's failing to make us men is because real men respect all humans. And we still, especially in the Eastern Cape, in certain areas where amaXhosa are very prevalent, so to speak, we have the process of ukuthwalwa, where a little girl, a virgin, a young girl, could be older, but where Xhosa men will go and take a young lady against her will and go forcibly marry her. And what they do is if she, so there are different formats. Let's say I want to marry my husband, but my parents say no. And his parents beg my family, please, he wants to marry your daughter. And they say, no, he's not Mxhosa, he's not Msotho, so we don't want him. And then he agrees with me. Thandi, I'm going to come with my guys and we will kidnap you. That's what ukutwala is. Ukutwalwa is to be kidnapped. But this is an arranged kidnapping between me and my man. It's our form. It's an African form of eloping. This one, the willful, the willing one, it's a format of eloping, and that's fine. I love it. It's sad that it has to happen. I wish families, and usually the reasons are not good reasons. They're not valid reasons to not allow a marriage. But so he will come, and then I will say my marriage was via ukutwalwa, where I was taken away by my husband and some of his men and taken from my parents because they didn't want me to marry him. So that one is fine, because I agreed to it. But then there's the arranged marriage. There's the arranged marriage type where the families say to each other, we want these two to marry, but the girl says, no, I don't want to marry him. Sometimes the man is much older and she's thinking, no, I want to marry for love. And they say, fine. The parents say, all right, dude's family, you come and get her at whatever day and you can take her against her will. There's that one where the families have made basically a forced marriage arrangement. And then there's the final type that is still existing today in the name of culture, tradition, where a man will see a young girl, maybe 16, 15, he's 45, and he thinks, like, this is a real case I'm talking about. And he says, well, I've been sleeping around with many women, but now I want a wife. I want a girl who doesn't know that I'm really a man whore. So I'm going to go find a girl in another village. And then he goes to the other village and he sees this young, innocent girl and he decides that's the one. This was reported. He himself spoke about it. And then he takes two men. He was saying he took the two men because he didn't want, so that if the other villagers saw and wanted to start attacking them for stealing their girl, then he could fight back. So he took two, reinforcements, and they stole the girl. And you know what happens? He takes her, and then there's rape. They rape the girl. The man, the husband, groom, rapes the girl, and thereby ensures that she can never go back, because no one wants damaged goods. And so that's how they even win over the family, that, well, we've slept with her now, so she's not a virgin, she belongs to this man, and so you might as well just let the marriage go ahead. Some women just stay on, even when they know better, and they raise children with the man. And this one woman said, yeah, that's what happened with her when she was 19. She didn't even know the man, but she has stayed with him. But I bet that's partly because of the fact that that's all she knows. And they've got 3 children. She stays home and takes care of the children, and he provides well for them. But yeah, that is the other thing that is done by men in the Xhosa culture. Maybe there are others, but I only know about it amongst the Xhosa culture, in the Xhosa culture. And so that's what I mean when I say this manhood that we're going to the bush for, it hasn't really brought much improvement for the other half of society. It hasn't brought much improvement for us women. It is a disdain. I'm serious, guys. There is generally a disdain for women, towards women, that is taught there. Whether it's, the hidden curriculum that is not the actual curriculum, but it's there, it's in tone and how they speak about women, whatever it is. But I'm telling you, if you go to a real African, not Christian bush, you do come back knowing that you must sleep around. That's what it is. And we know that what that means, STDs, chlamydia, pelvic inflammatory disease. We don't need men who've gone to the bush. We need good men. And good men don't need to go to the bush to learn to be good men.